I was being brought to set in a wheelchair. Like I couldn't walk that far. So I had to tell everybody because I needed help.
There are stories in Hollywood that take decades to surface. Stories that stay buried beneath contracts and public relations management and the simple desire to protect something too precious to share with the world. And then one day something shifts. Someone decides that the truth is more important than the silence. Someone decides that people deserve to know what really happened. That is exactly what Christina Applegate has begun doing, and what she is revealing about her relationship with EdONeill is something that nobody in the entertainment industry saw coming. To understand the full weight of what Christina has recently started sharing, you have to understand where this story begins. It begins in 1987, on a soundstage in Los Angeles, where a 15-year-old girl showed up for her first day of work on a television show that would go on to change American comedy forever. Married with Children was unlike anything that had been on network television before. It was raw. It was loud. It was deliberately provocative. And right in the center of it all was a teenager who had no roadmap for what she was walking into. Christina Applegate had already done some television work before landing the role of Kelly Bundy. She was not completely new to the industry, but nothing could have prepared her for the scale of what Married with Children would become, or for the particular challenges that came with playing a character like Kelly. Kelly Bundy was written as the ultimate teenage temptress. The jokes about her were often crude. The outfits were designed to be provocative. The entire premise of the character was built around a kind of attention that, when directed at a real 15-year-old girl, could very easily have crossed into something damaging and inappropriate. This is where the story of EdONeill begins. Not EdONeill the actor. Not Al Bundy the fictional patriarch. But EdONeill the man, who looked at this teenager on his set and made a private decision that nobody asked him to make. He decided to look out for her. He decided to make her safety and her dignity a personal priority, every single day, for 11 years. What Christina has recently been opening up about is the true depth of what that protection looked like in practice. It was not occasional. It was not performative. It was constant, quiet, and deeply intentional. She has described how Ed would position himself physically between her and people on set whose energy felt wrong. She has talked about how he developed a kind of radar for conversations that were heading in inappropriate directions, and how he would redirect those conversations before they could affect her. He was not her bodyguard in any official capacity. He was something more important than that. He was someone who genuinely cared about what happened to her. The people who worked on the production over the years have begun corroborating what Christina is describing. Crew members who spent years on that set have talked about noticing the dynamic between the two of them. They would watch Ed check on Christina between takes with the kind of consistency that went far beyond professional courtesy. They would see him pull her aside when something on set felt off. They would notice how Christina's body language would visibly relax whenever Ed was nearby. These were not the behaviors of two co-workers maintaining a polite working relationship. These were the behaviors of a young woman who trusted someone completely and a man who took that trust seriously. One of the things Christina has spoken about with particular emotion is how Ed handled the earliest years of the show, when she was still a minor and the public attention around Kelly Bundy was becoming intense. Fan mail was pouring in. Some of it was wildly inappropriate, directed at a character being played by a teenage girl. Media coverage often focused on Kelly's appearance in ways that could have been genuinely disturbing for a teenager to navigate alone. Ed made sure Christina did not have to navigate any of it alone. He was her buffer from the industry's worst instincts, and he performed that role without fanfare and without ever making her feel like a burden. There is something that Christina has shared recently that cuts to the heart of who EdONeill really is as a person. During a period of crisis early in the show's run, when external pressure threatened to end everything, Ed's response was not to protect his own career or his own reputation. His first concern was for the younger people on the cast, particularly Christina and David Faustino, who played her on-screen brother. He sat them down. He spoke to them honestly. He told them that regardless of what happened to the show, they had done something worth being proud of. He showed them how to carry themselves with dignity when circumstances were beyond their control. For Christina, watching a man of Ed's stature respond to adversity that way was one of the most important lessons of her life. The show survived that crisis and went on to become one of the longest-running sitcoms in Fox network history. 11 seasons. Over 250 episodes. And through all of it, the relationship between Ed and Christina continued to evolve in ways that surprised even them. As Christina grew from a teenager into a young woman, the dynamic between them shifted naturally. She became more confident. She found her voice as a performer and as a person. She started bringing her own ideas to the creative process, challenging herself in ways that impressed everyone around her. And Ed, rather than feeling threatened by her growth, celebrated it. He had always seen what she was capable of, and watching her step into her own power was something he genuinely treasured. By the final seasons of the show, Christina Applegate was not the same person who had walked onto that set at 15. She had become a formidable actress in her own right, someone with instincts and range that went far beyond what Kelly Bundy required of her. The entertainment industry was beginning to take notice. Opportunities were starting to come her way that had nothing to do with Married with Children. And through all of those developments, Ed remained a constant presence. Not hovering, not interfering, just present, in the way that the most important people in our lives are present. There when needed, steady when things got uncertain. When the show ended in 1997, it ended without ceremony. One of the strange cruelties of television is that a production can run for over a decade, become part of millions of people's lives, and then simply stop with almost no acknowledgement of what it meant to the people who made it. There was no finale designed to give the cast closure. There was no grand goodbye. The Bundy family just ceased to exist one day, and everyone went home. Christina has talked about how disorienting that was. For 11 years, she had gone to the same place, worked with the same people, inhabited the same character. And then overnight, all of that was gone. But EdONeill was not gone. That is the thing that Christina has been most emphatic about in her recent revelations. The end of the show did not end their relationship. If anything, it clarified it. Once the professional context that had brought them together no longer existed, what remained was something that had nothing to do with work. It was a genuine bond between two people who had spent a formative portion of their lives together and who valued each other deeply as human beings. They stayed in contact. They met for meals. Ed continued to be a source of advice and support as Christina built her post-Married with Children career. That career turned out to be extraordinary. Christina went on to prove in film and television that she was one of the most naturally talented comedic actresses of her generation. She earned critical acclaim and industry recognition. She showed range and depth that surprised even those who had loved her work on Married with Children. Through all of it, Ed was watching from the sidelines, proud in the way that only someone who knew her at 15 could be proud. He had seen where she started. He knew what it had taken to get where she arrived. Then came August 2021, and everything changed. When Christina Applegate announced publicly that she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, the entertainment world stopped. People who had grown up watching her on television felt the news like something personal. MS is a disease that attacks the central nervous system, disrupting the signals between the brain and the body. It is unpredictable, progressive, and currently incurable. For someone whose entire career had been built on her physical presence, her energy, her seemingly effortless ability to inhabit a space with her whole body, the diagnosis represented a profound and painful transformation. Christina has been unflinching in her honesty about what the diagnosis has meant for her life. She now uses a cane. She has spoken candidly about the cognitive effects of the disease, the fatigue, the grief that comes with losing the version of yourself that existed before illness arrived. She has talked about mourning while still living, which is one of the most psychologically demanding experiences a person can face. She has done all of this publicly, not because she had to, but because she understood that her visibility could matter to others living with the same diagnosis. What Christina has recently exposed about EdONeill's response to her diagnosis is one of the most moving parts of her story. When Ed found out, he did not send a brief message of sympathy and move on. He showed up for her in the way he had always shown up for her, with consistency, with genuine emotion, and with a particular kind of care that communicates to another person that they are not alone. Christina has said clearly that his response meant more to her than almost anything else she received during that period. Coming from someone who knew her the way he did, going all the way back to who she was at 15, his love and support carried a weight that nothing else could match. The entire cast rallied around her. Katie Sagal, who had played her TV mother for 11 seasons, became one of her most vocal supporters. David Faustino, the brother she never actually had, made his love for her clear. The family that had been constructed on a soundstage in Hollywood proved itself to be something more durable than fiction. But it was Ed's presence in those difficult months that Christina keeps returning to when she talks about what sustained her. He was still, after everything, being the person he had decided to be for her back in 1987. In January 2023, Christina Applegate appeared at the Emmy Awards and received one of the most remarkable standing ovations in the history of that ceremony. She walked onto the stage with her cane, moving slowly, and the entire audience rose without any prompting. They stood and they applauded, and they kept applauding. For nearly a full minute, the room was on its feet for a woman who had given so much to the industry and who was now facing something no one would choose. Christina stood there and absorbed it, visibly moved, and then she did the thing that defines her as a person. She made a joke. She told the audience they were shaking her brain. The room laughed through tears. It was a moment that encapsulated everything she is. What most people watching at home did not see was what happened before and after that moment. EdONeill made sure she knew, that night and in the days surrounding it, that his feelings for her had not been diminished by time or circumstance. The dynamic that had existed since she was a teenager remained intact. He was still watching out for her, still making sure she was okay, still being, in the most real sense of the word, her person. Christina has also recently spoken about a podcast she co-hosts called Messy, which she does alongside actress Jamie Lynn Sigler, who also lives with MS. The podcast has given her a platform that accommodates her current health reality while still allowing her to connect with audiences, to be funny, to be honest, to be fully herself. It has also opened up a new kind of conversation about what her continued presence in the entertainment world might look like, and what a potential married with children reunion could realistically involve. Because the question of a reunion has been circling for years, and what Christina is now revealing adds new dimensions to that conversation. EdONeill has made his position unmistakably clear. He will not do a reunion without Christina. He has said it in various ways and in various contexts, and the message has never wavered. Whatever form a return to the Bundy family might take, it must include her. The other cast members have echoed the same sentiment. Christina is not optional. She is not replaceable. She is the show, as much as any of them are the show, and they refuse to move forward without her. This commitment, publicly stated and privately reinforced, has meant something profound to Christina during one of the most difficult chapters of her life. When illness strips away certainty, when the future becomes something you can no longer plan for with confidence, the people who stand beside you and say we are not going anywhere represent a lifeline. That is what EdONeill and the rest of the cast have been for her. A reminder that the family the show created was not a performance. It was real. What Christina Applegate has been gradually exposing in her recent conversations is not a scandal. There is no betrayal here, no hidden darkness, no secret that destroys a carefully constructed image. What she is exposing is something far more rare and far more valuable. She is exposing what genuine human decency looks like when it is practiced consistently over nearly 4 decades. She is exposing what it means when someone in a position of experience and influence chooses to use that position to protect rather than exploit. She is exposing the truth that the best relationships in life are the ones that survive everything, the professional transitions, the years of distance, the unexpected diagnoses, and the long, slow work of simply growing old. EdONeill played a fictional father on television for 11 years. But what Christina has made clear, in everything she has said and everything she continues to say, is that what he gave her was never fictional. The safety he provided was real. The mentorship was real. The love was real. And it has remained real through every twist that life has thrown at both of them. For the millions of people who grew up watching the Bundy family navigate their chaotic, dysfunctional, deeply human lives in that house on Jeopardy Lane, the story of Christina and Ed offers something unexpectedly beautiful. It offers proof that sometimes the best thing a television show can do is bring two people together whose connection outlasts every episode, every season, every cancellation notice, and every obstacle the real world can manufacture. Some stories are bigger than the screen they started on. This is one of them. And as Christina Applegate continues to live her life with the honesty and humor that have always defined her, as she faces her illness with a courage that has moved an entire industry to its feet, the person who has been